Hello, Alleyway Conversations. Once again, this is Andrew.
And this patch.
And today we are going to talk about one of Patrick's favorite topics of all time.
We get to talk about pirate movies.
Yes, this is going to be a pirate episode.
Yeah, pirates have always been kind of a big deal to me, whether it be the games, the movies. There's even a little bit of music we're going to talk about a little bit, but it's been something I've always been weirdly attracted to. Lots of, criminals. We'll have to have a gangster movie episode one of these
What,
days,
you
too.
mean you want a mobster movie? You like mobsters too?
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy, but...
Well, I know this is going to surprise nobody that knows me, but I'm actually a huge history buff, and pirates is part of the interesting facts of history I like to look into.
Well, and I think it's important to note, just because I really like the media, but at the same time, these stories didn't just, pop out of the sky. They had real-world applications and things of the like. So it's important to note that, yes, there was a history. Like, pirates didn't just, end up doing children's programming or whatever.
I mean, I think there is a pirate that does that, but we won't get into that.
Well, fair enough, but...
SpongeBob.
Yeah.
But, most people, when they think of the age of piracy, the Golden Age, it's usually the Caribbean with Blackbeard. It was around 1650s to the 1730s. That's when the most famous time came to be about.
That was a lot of the time. Yeah, in the Caribbean, mostly Kingston was a really big, landing spot for them.
Well, it was an amazing spot to go to because most of the countries, Spain and Great Britain, is most of them, but they would go through the Caribbean after they went to South America and places and loaded up on gold that they dug up.
Yeah, they were doing the whole colonialism thing, and so they had a lot of treasure going into England or Spain, and a lot of people looked at all those shipments and were like, you know what? We can take that.
Well, one of the reasons piracy became such a big deal was they were called the Letters of Marque. So when Spain, Britain, and France were all at war, and they were always seemed to be at war with each other or something else.
Oh my God!
They would do legal piracy. They would get a captain and crew with a ship. They would give them a piece of paper from the government saying, hey, as long as you're attacking our enemies and their allies and not attacking us or our allies, you can go raid ships. You are a legal pirate. And I'm sure the reason that the Caribbean became such a big piracy hotspot was, I'm sure after the war was over, the British was probably like, hey, thanks for doing all this great stuff, give us all the treasure, and everybody gets to go home. With basically nothing, more than likely.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, they could say that to the captain and the first mates and the officers, because most of those people were either employed by the Navy or were nobles who had money to go back home too, but most of your basic sailors were commoners. So we have all this treasure.
On that note, imagine that, just this wealthy noble out in Victorian England just randomly gets a hair up his ass and thinks, you know what, I want to be a pirate.
Well, I'm sure part of it was they were in the Navy, and instead of just going around shooting other Navy ships, they're like, hey, you know what would also help? Attacking enemy supply lines, which that's what ships were then, especially if you were Spain or England. I mean, let's face it, England is an island. They don't have land routes.
Yeah, exactly.
So...
And the Irish can see them from their back door.
Yeah.
We're watching.
But yeah, these commoners are like, okay, so we have all this gold. Why are we giving it to them and going back and doing farming and getting taxed all to hell?
Yeah.
No, forget that. I'm sure once all the noblemen left, and not all of them, some noblemen actually went on to be actual pirates later on.
Yeah. I
mean, if you're far enough down the family tree in noble society, then you don't get jack when daddy dies. The firstborn probably gets all the land and money. The second-born usually got married off to...
someone who will make the family a bigger deal than it is.
Yeah. So, and then the third one, I think, usually went into the clergy. After that, the fourth, fifth, sixth son, all the way down to whatever, hopefully only double digits.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were doing triple digits, you were very prolific. Dang.
Well, it's something I always point out to myself when I'm watching like a movie from the 70s, and I think like, why don't they just pull out their phone? And then I feel like an idiot for a minute. Oh yeah, it's the 70s. There are no cell phones.
Yeah.
But keep in mind back then, there was no radio, there was no television, literacy rates were at an all-time low because it was the Middle Ages. So there was a lot of not much happening at home, and some people used that to make some sweet, sweet lovin'.
Yeah. What else are you going to do in the wintertime? Well, we're snowed in, and I've only got my wife and probably about a dozen maids. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think that's what he ended up doing.
Time to make kid number 12.
Man, you were early in life.
Yeah, well, I mean, you gotta start young.
So, yeah, I think a lot of the pirate crews either came to the New World back then and just decided, you know what, it's a lot. I got paid a lot better if I was being a pirate once they got here, or they just didn't want to go back to their life as being a dirt poor farmer and just ended up being a pirate. Sure, they did that whole, live hard and die young, but...
Yeah, it would be a thing in criminal culture for a very long time, and kind of still is.
Well, I mean, look at it like this. Everybody says, oh, pirates must have been terrible and horrible wherever they went. No, their home ports were usually very lively affairs.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of them were probably built by the natives. They were nicer to the natives than they were to anybody else.
Well, the natives didn't have all kinds of riches to plunder.
Well,
and also were generally okay with the fact, they were doing all these things, because it's way halfway across the world.
Well, not just that, but think of it like this. You're a pirate, so you need a berth, you need fresh water, you need food, you need someone to make your alcohol, and you need a tavern to go to when you hit dock.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't manning any of these. It was the locals. I mean, the locals grew the food, they brewed the alcohol, they did all of this.
Oh, yeah.
And they were more than happy to welcome the pirates in. Oh, yeah, sure, we'll build a dock so you can stay here. Sure, spend all your money.
Yeah.
And then they went usually a fairly long way not to kill the natives. Why? Because they needed people to run everything, to run the taverns. Where do you think the prostitutes came from?
I mean, again, no radio, internet, TV.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got drunk, sat around a campfire at the beach, and had a floozy on your arm.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 or 4, depends on how good the haul was.
Yeah, dude.
And that's also why they continued to pirate, because you got paid really well. And then after a 2 or 3 week spending binge, because, again, you had nothing else to do, you probably drank a lot.
Oh my god, dude. I mean, there was an actual European fascination for rum as a whole at the time, just because a lot of the time before that we made like whiskey, gin, stuff like that with wheat and barley, but rum's made of sugar cane, and it's really, really good. It was sort of sugary to taste, as opposed to, again, whiskey or rye.
Well, also, most of your European countries were in a northern hemisphere, and sugarcane is a tropical plant.
Yeah.
So
you can't get that in England.
No, it's a little too far north. The growing season isn't long enough. And,
Yeah.
and I mean, let's face it, you go to Ireland and Scotland, and you have potatoes. And again, how they didn't discover vodka before the Russians, I'll never know. I mean, you think potatoes, you think the Irish.
We could get whiskey, we could get potatoes, but you gotta understand, we want to get drunk and stay well fed.
So you were more worried about eating the potatoes before they turned into something like vodka.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Oh, man. So it was really embarrassing when the French discovered French fries.
I know you're a history buff, so you're just screwing with me, but it's still irritating.
Right? Like, I'm Irish. How did I not know I could do this? Well, heck, I think, if I'm not mistaken, potato chips were invented in America simply because this fried potatoes was a very popular dish, and it was actually... I love the story of the potato chip because because potato chips would not have been a thing if it wasn't for revenge.
Oh yeah, just some petty ass cook, which if you've worked in food service, you know all too well. Keep being petty, and one day you'll invent a timeless classic food.
But yeah, this man kept sending his potatoes back because they weren't thin enough and they weren't fried enough. So the chef was like, you know what? I'm gonna make them so thin and I'm gonna fry them so much that he's not gonna be able to eat them. And then this guy basically table flipped and went, holy crap, this is the greatest thing since sliced... Well, actually, I don't think sliced bread was invented yet, so this is the greatest thing since Betty White.
Nice, that'll do.
Right. You know, actually, funny story, Betty White is actually older than sliced bread.
Wow. I sincerely did not know that.
Yeah, I think sliced bread was a very common commercial thing, I think when she was 6 or 7. So, yeah, she's older than sliced bread.
Yeah, she's the greatest thing before sliced bread.
That's right. We miss you, Betty White.
We do.
I'd say you were gone too soon, but what were you, like 104?
Yeah, she lived a long, full life.
She did.
Yeah.
So, moving a little bit farther forward in history, the most classic pirate story that I can think of is Treasure Island. Everybody knows it.
It's my favorite.
It was an amazing book. It was written by Robert Louis Stevenson in 1881, actually, is when the publication started. So back then, he actually wrote it for a magazine that was split up into multiple chapters. It took him 2 years to write the whole book. That got published in a magazine. Then in 1883, he published the actual book called Treasure Island.
Yeah, that's why you renamed it. And I've always really considered Treasure Island a quintessential part of pirate media. Anytime you watch a movie that has anything to do with pirates, you immediately think, oh yeah, like Treasure Island.
I would say that's a bit more common before Pirates of the Caribbean came out, simply because, let's face it, Pirates of the Caribbean with Johnny Depp did kind of take the world by storm, so I feel like in the younger generation, they probably know that more than they do Treasure Island.
Yeah, that's fair, but at the same time, like, there are, 5, 6 Pirates of the Caribbean movies, right?
5.
5, okay.
Which, by the way, Patrick has only ever seen the first one.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to change that very soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to... Eventually, we're going to just have an episode purely filled with, like, stuff I've never watched. Because, yes, I'm a little sheltered.
And, well, you spent most of your time listening to music versus watching movies, and I did the opposite. When I grew up, I actually didn't have the internet. Me and Mom were too poor. We also didn't have television other than what the bunny ears could pick up. And once digital television first started coming out...
Oh, you were already in your 20s by then, right?
No. So, I remember digital television because I lived close to one of the bigger cities. I actually got, like, PBS and Fox.
Nice.
And I got, like, 3 or 4 channels. So, I got to watch The King of Queens and Friends. And it was a good time.
I love The King of Queens, by the way.
Yeah. But at that point, all the digital antennas were gone because everyone was buying them up like crazy, and I've never owned a digital antenna or a TV new enough to get digital signal.
Yeah, and now we do everything via internet. You can just stream whatever. So
yeah. So I actually grew up, and me and Mom would go buy movies from Movie Gallery and Pop and Go. That's probably showing our age a little bit, but those were still very popular when I was growing up.
We actually had one that was like almost on its way out by the time it started. You were in college. It was me and Kevin. We would stop by this one place called Wanna Watch a Movie. And it was filled with just all kinds of like old schlocky B-list stuff, and we loved it.
So it was your paradise.
Yeah, it was great. I remember that was the first time I'd ever been insulted by a clerk.
That's surprising, knowing you and Kevin.
Yeah, I want to point this out. I was not being rude. I was not going into detail at all about the film itself. But And this was after a few months of us coming in at least once a week, by the way. Like, this wasn't just some random thing that happened. So, yeah, this lady sees these two, like, dorky, almost teenagers come in and get all kinds of goofy, schlocky B-list movies. And without, like, going into it at all, very subtle, just like, excuse me, miss, do you happen to have the Human Centipede?
Oh, God.
Yeah, her first reaction was, oh my god, you are disgusting.
Yeah, at least my excuse when I watched it was, man, it's Halloween, I need to watch a horror movie.
Oh.
You know what? I'll watch this. I had no idea going into it what it was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, one of the first scenes is you see the doctor holding a picture of the 3 dogs sewn together, and I'm like, huh. That's odd. I had no
Yeah.
idea. I just thought it was a picture of 3 dogs, and then he goes to his grave and it just said 3 dog on it. I go, that is a very odd name for a dog. And then
wow.
yeah, it was a very strange read.
Sorry.
Now Human Centipede 2, I had no excuses going into it, but the first one was so wild and out there, I had to watch it, and my God, it made the first one seem tame.
I know.
But-
It got weird.
Hey, back to pirate movies.
Yeah, we were talking about something totally different that I also like quite a bit.
Oh man. So,
Yeah, Treasure Island has been around since the 1880s,
yeah.
and it has been reiterated dozens of times.
Oh yeah. So Treasure Island, I was looking into watching a Treasure Island movie, so I just looked up the Treasure Island movie, thinking, oh, there's only got to be 2 or 3.
Oh, no.
Oh, good God, no.
Absolutely not.
So the first one I found, timeline-wise, probably dates back to, it was either 1912 or 1914 was the first Treasure Island movie that I found,
Yeah.
and it was still in the old black and white silent movie era. Then there was one in the 30s. I don't think there was one in the 40s, mainly because World War II, we were a little preoccupied
there
with
was
other things.
there was a whole lot of like world invasion going on there.
There was already piracy happening. They didn't need a movie about it.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then probably the one that most people know there's 2 versions of Treasure Island that most people know about. There was the 1950s version.
That is my favorite, by the way.
It was very good. It was very well acted. And for a movie that's 70 years old, it holds up.
Yeah.
The guy they have that plays Long John Silver, I loved him.
Oh,
At the
yeah.
start of the movie, cannot understand his accent to save my life.
Yeah, I don't know if like the director told him to tone it down, or you just get used to it due to the fact that you hear it all the time.
Or it could have been the copious amounts of beer we were drinking in order to watch this movie marathon we were trying to go on.
Oh yeah, I'm not doing this sober. I haven't.
Long John Silver's amazing actor.
Yeah, he got the crazy eyes.
Yeah, Jim
Yep.
Hawkins, or according to Long John Silver,
Harkin.
Jim Harkins. Yes. I'm sorry. I love it. Like you said, there's no R in his name. There is when everything has an R
Yeah,
in it.
it does when you're a pirate and have to go R like it's a verbal tick.
And the emphasis he places on the Harkins. All right, I didn't realize his last
Jim
name
Harkins.
was 2 names, but
Yeah.
okay. And the second movie that most people probably know of is Muppet Treasure Island, which is
that
also
note-
very famous.
On that note, by the way, back to the 1950s Disney movie, I've pointed this out to you, but I think I discovered something. He's got the crazy eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm fairly certain he twitches his right eye. He does it pretty often, but I'm pretty sure he only does it when he's lying, because John Silver lies quite a bit.
And then the few times we knew he wasn't lying, he didn't seem to do it near as much.
Yeah, exactly.
Or he went kind of bug-eyed because
Yeah.
telling the truth was so foreign to him. Urgh.
Yeah, I realized it at first when he put Jim Hawkins to knife point, and he was threatening to kill him, but he was twitching his eye like crazy the whole time, because it's always been my thought that John Silver always really liked Jim Hawkins.
Yeah, he did. I'm not really in Treasure Planet.
He wouldn't kill Jim.
No, in Treasure Planet, I love Treasure Planet. It is by far my favorite
Yeah,
retelling of Treasure Island. I wouldn't consider it in the Treasure Island mythos normally, only because it's more of a sci-fi than it was a fantasy novel.
Well, I kind of like the fresh take on it. It still
yes, it was
is
very wonderful. I loved it.
It still is the story. It's just more of a sci-fi thing than like your historical accurate.
Yeah, and you actually see the fact that it does take so long. The time manipulation they do in Treasure Planet to show how much time passed on the ship. They did much better than in the Treasure Island or the Muppets version. Because, in Treasure Island, it almost seems like it was only been 2 or 3 days. Because they did basically nothing to show a progression of time.
Yeah.
And then in the Muppets, we have Cabin Fever song. And they literally just say, oh yeah, we've been out here for 4 weeks.
Yeah, like we kind of glossed over the Muppet Treasure Island. Which is a little sad because I think it has some merit. It's probably a lot of people our age's first take on the story.
It came out in '96. I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize this at the time. And as I'm growing older, I am really appreciating Tim Curry in a lot of movies. I forgot Tim Curry played Long John Silver in this, and oh my God, his take on Long John Silver. I've yet to see anything Tim Curry's touched that I haven't loved.
Yeah, I think he spoiled me in terms of Pennywise. Because I watched the reboot and I was just like, yeah, this guy isn't very good, but maybe I just think that because...
You got a Tim Curry?
Yeah, I got Tim Curry playing a clown. He's a really good clown, so...
And, Tim Curry, if you're listening, we love you. You're amazing.
Ferngully was underrated.
Oh God, your song there at the start of Ferngully. What was it? Ooze and Grime and Toxic Love. That's what it was. Loved it.
Toxic Love.
Oh, Tim Curry, I didn't know you could sing and act that well. And again, I didn't realize who that was growing up. I watched a lot of Tim Curry growing up. Ferngully, Muppets Treasure Island, A Clue.
Yeah.
He did a lot of amazing things.
Home Alone 2. He was in Home Alone. He was the best part of Home Alone 2.
Yeah, and
not a high statement, but trust me, he was.
There wasn't a whole lot of competition in Home Alone 2.
Yeah, but he was easily the best part.
At least it wasn't Home Alone 3.
Oh,
and then I've heard there's like 6 or 7 of those movies considered Home Alone movies, and we don't.
Does Macaulay Culkin actually show up in
No,
any
they're
of
only
them?
in the first 2, if I understand correctly. I've seen the first 2. And I remember watching the third one and then going, okay, I don't have to watch these anymore.
That's fair. Oh, Rob Schneider was also pretty great, but
yeah.
Most of his scenes were with Tim Curry, so.
Oh yes. So Muppet Treasure Island.
Muppet Treasure Island was very much a stage play.
It wasn't bad. I mean, I
Yeah.
definitely appreciated it a lot more as a kid. But there was just a lot of extra stuff in there we didn't need.
No,
Actually, I feel like if they had taken the Muppets out of there and just given more screen time to Tim Curry, I probably would have liked it better.
Well, I mean, anything with more Tim Curry is always a good thing, but...
And the one song Tim Curry did, I can't remember what it was called, hey, become a part of our crew where you could be a family with us pirates. Great song. It still has an amazing singing voice.
Oh yeah, and it kind of matches like Long John Silver, like trying to encourage people to get into piracy.
Well, if it was anybody else, I don't think he would care, but he really wanted to stick with Jim Hawkins. It was still at that point where even he didn't want to admit to himself how much he liked him.
Oh yeah.
Because even in the 50s version, he's like, look, I'm not going to hurt you. He was still kind of in a joking way, still kind of serious. He hadn't fully revealed to himself how important Jim Hawkins was to him yet.
Yeah. Well, and that's, back onto Treasure Planet, I think that was something that actually improved with age, is just the fact that John Silver actually reconciled with the fact, like, dude, I fucking love this kid. Like, way earlier on.
He does. And Treasure Planet, honestly, Treasure Planet is one of those movies that I think really got underrated. It slipped between the cracks. Because nowadays Disney has their thing going on. And what did you say? During the Renaissance era, of Disney.
Yeah,
it was
that
like
was when...
right at the tail end of the Renaissance, but right before the new series started, so it kind of just fell in there with Atlantis.
It's actually a little bit worse than that, because a lot of people consider the end of the Renaissance to be sometime right before Hercules.
Which is a shame. I liked the Hercules movie.
Oh, it was good. It was good, don't get me wrong, but Disney really didn't know where to go after that. And so they kind of were like, I don't know, we got something about treasure hunters, and there's pirates and space.
Well, I feel like they were almost throwing darts at a board, and whatever stuck, they got made a movie, which that's how you got Treasure Planet and Atlantis. Oh, God, Atlantis.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on that. That's an amazing movie, too.
On that note, too, like, the people who made Treasure Planet, I cannot remember their names, which is sad because they've given me so much joy. They were actually, like, really excited about this from, like, pre-Renaissance. Like, before they made Beauty and the Beast, they're like, whoa, okay, we can do Beauty and the Beast, or we could do this crazy sci-fi iteration of Robert Louis Stevenson novel. And Disney execs were like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Let's do Beauty and the Beast.
Well, you got to admit, before that time, basically every movie had been a Brothers Grimm retelling, and they had massive success with that. So they probably didn't want to change the dynamic of the movies they were making. And then Atlantis, oh my God, that was also phenomenal. But I can kind of see where they probably want to forget that certain timeline, because it was also around then that we got Open Range.
Home on the Range.
Home on the Range, yeah. And, oh no, it's about a cattle rustler who yodels.
I like to consider this the Pink Floyd era, because Pink Floyd was very experimental. Some of their songs worked, lots of them didn't.
Very bad.
Yeah, and nothing against Pink Floyd, but occasionally you'll be like, man, no one's ever done anything like that. Sometimes there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And I feel like Disney was kind of going through that. Like, has anyone ever done, like, this crazy sci-fi pirate story? No? Okay, that works. Has anyone made Roseanne a cartoon cow?
Oh, God.
That does not work. Okay.
I'd say I'm glad they found that out, but I wish they would have found that out before they made the movie.
Yeah, I wish they would have, like, some executive was like, no, guys.
I can honestly say there are a lot of Disney animated movies that they tried to make. I'd have to put Home on the Range just at the bottom of the list. I don't normally do sequels. Disney does not do sequels well. Cinderella 2, Hercules 2, there's just a lot. I don't really know a whole lot of sequels they did that were actually ended up good. Pixar can do some really good sequels. I mean, the Kung Fu Panda movies, all three of those were pretty good.
Most of the Shrek sequels were pretty good.
I thought that was also Pixar.
No, that is DreamWorks.
Oh, yeah. Well, was that before or after Disney bought them?
That's not a thing.
Oh, I thought Disney buys everything anymore.
Yeah,
they can buy the moon and turn it into a Mickey Mouse symbol.
DreamWorks isn't a Disney property yet.
Dun dun dun. So, but yeah, we actually got around to watching some really great pirate movies.
We did, and of course, to me, you really can't. When you think of any kind of original IP, even though it's not really original.
It's 140 years original.
Yeah. I meant the other pirate movie.
Oh, yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Which does make me wonder, because it was based off of a Disney ride. Where did Disney get the idea for Pirates of the Caribbean? Or was it just like a Treasure Island kind of thing?
Yeah, I always just kind of figure it was like, I don't know, we made Peter Pan, and that's got pirates. People really resonated with the pirates. Let's do more pirate stuff, right?
Yeah, sure.
And as it stands, Mickey Mouse was at the press conference just like, oh yeah, it sounds like a great idea. I cannot do Mickey Mouse.
That was a terrible Mickey.
Yeah, I'm sorry, people.
You know what? You can be Goofy.
I can. I cannot do the yell particularly well, but
you have a hard time hitting those high notes.
Yeah. Well, and I was a punk singer for a long time, and people like it when your voice is like really low and gritty. So now I'm at Ken Casey levels of rasp. So that's pretty cool.
Woo. Okay, so if we're going to talk about pirates, I really want to talk about at least one of the video games. I know Sid Meier's did a pirate.
Yeah.
And I've never played it. It looked interesting.
Yeah.
But if we're going to go pirates, we're going to have to go the most famous pirate video game of all time, and that was Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Not Monkey Island?
I never grew up playing point-and-click adventure games, so I don't know anything about Monkey Island.
Fair enough. I just kind of think, like, I wouldn't call it the most famous. Like, people love Monkey Island, man.
I have heard, but Monkey Island, point-and-click adventure games were very, very unique. Let's go with unique.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with
good.
unique instead of crazy.
It was most certainly a product of its time, and that time has passed.
Well, I never understood. A madman could not follow the thinking that went behind some of these things. No. Oh, do you need a key to this door? Well, in order to get the key, first you need to go buy a fish. That fish is going to drop a ring. The ring you're going to give to this bread selling merchant. You're going to take the bread to the paper seller. The paper seller is going to give you a newspaper. You take the newspaper to the man that's stuck in the outhouse to wipe, and thanks to him, he'll be so grateful he'll give you his hat, which had a secret compartment with a key in it that now unlocks the door. Who the fuck?
Yeah, I'm not gonna say otherwise. I was never, honestly, a big fan myself, but I mean, you were like, now when you think pirate video games, Monkey Island, obviously.
Oh, well.
But
I'm not saying you're wrong, but Monkey Island was more of like a very early 90s computer game.
Yeah.
So, again, that would be our generation. A lot of the newer people grew up with their fancy Xboxes. I don't know why I'm trying to do an old man voice, but...
I don't know, it's working out.
But
yeah, what you were
they grew
talking
up on
about. Pirates
Pirates of the Caribbean and the 360. And don't get me wrong, I love the Assassin's Creed game. I'm not making fun of them.
Oh, yeah.
And I grew up when the very first one came out. I was actually in Job Corps when the very first Assassin's Creed game came out.
We were in our 20s, and I randomly heard
Actually,
about it.
I might have been 19 about to turn 20, because it came out around
Fair enough.
Christmas time.
We were at least fresh out of high school, and just out of nowhere, I kept on hearing about Assassin's Creed.
And I'd always heard that it was really... And I love playing rogues. Any game that lets me play a rogue class, I always start off with rogue. So I'm like, Assassins? Ooh, that sounds right up my alley. I love things like that. So I got Assassin's Creed, and one of the first things, you run around, you can stab people, you be stealthy and sneaky. I can climb this tower, and oh my god, I'm sorry, it was the first 360 game. No, I take it back. It was the second 360 game I bought, because the first one was Assassin's Creed, or not Assassin's Creed, Dragon Age Origins.
Which was also really, really good.
Oh, it's still my favorite Dragon Age game to this day. Definitely in my top 10 all video games of all time.
Yeah, definitely.
But Assassin's Creed, but even then, Dragon Age's visuals were nothing compared to when you got on top of the tower to activate Eagle Vision to scout out on the towers, and just the vistas, the panorama, the loading distances for the game when you got up there and you could see so much was phenomenal. It was a graphical amazing. It was graphical engineering at its finest.
I always feel like Ubisoft really banked on that. Like, once everything became like this open world sandbox game, it's like, okay, cool, we're gonna make there be a reason for it being a big open worldy sandbox. You're gonna explore, you're gonna see some stuff.
And it was amazing.
Yeah.
My problem is I feel like right around that time was the end of the golden age of video games. Like, the start of the golden age was, I feel like,
do you maybe only feel that way because that was during your late teens, and that was when you were playing a lot of video games, though?
No, I mean, I grew up playing probably the Nintendo 64 and the original Xbox more than anything, and the GameCube. I can't forget the GameCube. I loved the GameCube.
Yeah, definitely.
But I feel like nowadays, AAA publishers and people like that focus more on the graphics that the new consoles and stuff can produce, and less on the story and the gameplay of games. Because, everything, they're trying to, I feel like, overcompensate for everything they couldn't do so many years ago, like online multiplayer and graphics. I mean, you get an Atari, I'm sorry, you had to use your imagination, because when your character is a little yellow square, that takes a lot of imagination to imagine that a person.
Yeah. Well, but at the same time, I can't help but think, like, that is something that occurs, yes. I can't say it doesn't, but at the same time, there are also people like pretty much everyone over at, like, Naughty Dog, or I wouldn't say Bethesda, but at least Obsidian, who intentionally try to make not only good graphics, but they also try to put in a really good story.
But I do feel like a lot of that is getting lost anymore.
Yeah, I feel like for me, like, once Rockstar learned about online gaming, I kind of had a sinking feeling we would not see a grand story ever again. We did, because Red Dead 2 came out, and it was really, really good. But, we'll talk about that later, probably.
And, most multiplayer games, they focus on the multiplayer aspect so much. Some of them don't have a storyline at all. And I don't like that. But one of the few aspects, like I said, I talked about how I feel like a lot of the storytelling and narrative becomes very bland because they want to focus on graphics so much. It's like all of the best characters seem to go bland. Yeah. And one of my favorite examples would be Destiny 2. The game was so terrible when it released because it was so just meh, that the original game, as far as I know, is still free. They charge you for the DLC because they finally realized, oh, this is garbage. We need to actually make something people are willing to buy.
Yeah.
And the only thing, in my opinion, that made Destiny 2 worth watching was Cade. He was actually voiced by Nathan Fillion.
Ooh.
And,
the Firefly guy.
Yes. And it is as amazing as you can think of. If you do nothing else, go onto YouTube and look up all of Cade's lines and story. Like, literally, the reason I stopped playing Destiny 2 was there was a DLC, and the whole point to it was they killed off Cade.
Wow.
And could not tell you the name of the other two Guardians, but there are three Guardians, because each one of them was leader of the faction. It was the three of them, but they were also the Sorcerer Trainer, the Titan Trainer, and the Rogue Trainer. Cade was the Rogue Trainer, which makes sense for Nathan Fillion. Like you said, he was in Firefly. He was the captain. He was a pirate. Hey, there's another kind of pirate movie we could have gone with.
Well, and it's actually kind of funny because I know Nathan Fillion is from Firefly, but I've actually never watched Firefly.
It's an amazing series. I've never watched all of it because I just get so sad watching this going, man, I wish there was more to it than this. But we'll sit down. It's like a Western mixed with a space travel. Oh my god.
We should do a Western episode.
So here's the thing.
Sorry.
I know I'm going to say this, and I'll probably not be able to get out of watching it once I tell you this, but Firefly is kind of like a real live action of Cowboy Bebop.
Well, yeah, that settles it. We gotta watch it.
Yeah, the only difference is instead of jazz music, it's Western music.
We're probably going to have, like, a golden age, like, 90s era anime episode, too.
Well, yeah, that's some of the best stuff.
Yeah.
Early 80s to mid 90s.
Well, and that's, like, the one bit of anime I can talk about. Like, can I talk about, I don't know, My Hero Academia, or Attack on Titan? No.
You could? I don't suggest it.
Well, it would just be, like, me just,
Yes,
But meanwhile, ask me about Fist of the North Star or Dragon Ball Z.
Trigun. Tenchi Muyo. I loved these growing up.
Oh yeah, we actually watched a lot of Tenchi Muyo together.
Yeah. But Cade, they kill him off, and the whole time he's getting ready to get killed off, he's just smart mouthing people. He literally, one of the things that happens is an entire floor collapses, and instead of him being the casual, oh no, isn't this terrible, he literally grabs a piece of rebar or something and rides it down like a fucking cowboy on a Bronco.
Yeah.
And somebody watches him fall down, and he's just sitting there doing the whole arm waving thing, and then the other character just stops, looks at him fall like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It was
why
beautiful.
Not? If you're gonna go down, like, go down with a show.
Oh yeah. But back to the pirate part.
Yeah.
You know, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, it had those wonderful. It had some really great characters. Granted, they were based on history.
Yeah.
So I mean, you had Blackbeard in there.
It was one of the few things. Because, like, I like Assassin's Creed, but a lot of it's based solely on the time period. Like, I did like this, because I like pirates. I also liked Syndicate, because I like Victorian England.
How far in Black Flag did you get?
I beat it.
You did? Oh,
Yeah, I did beat it, yeah. It was actually kind of cool, because there were a lot of figures, like, Blackbeard was in. James Kidd was actually Mary Read, which I kind of knew all along, but I was
Anne
going
Boleyn.
with it.
Wait, was it Boleyn?
Yeah.
Am I pronouncing that right? I probably butchered that. Like, she did to a lot of
it's
people.
Anne Boleyn. Yeah. And she got, and it got done to her too. So.
Yeah, that is something. I don't know of really any pirate that got to retire to a ripe old age, or just retired. Period. Actually, I take that back. Their retirement was how did they describe hanging? A short drop with a sudden stop.
Yeah, pretty much.
But
let's see here. There were, of course, there was Calico Jack. That was kind of a weird segment too. Like, you remember when you got marooned on the island with Calico Jack?
Oh yeah, and then he tries to rob you of a coconut or something like that.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah. I don't remember him too well. It was a very small
weird
segment.
because when you, it is weird because, you know, Calico Jack's one of the more famous pirates out there. And yet he was kind of a footnote in favor of, Mary Read was all over the place in that.
Well.
Which I liked.
Yeah.
By the way, she's a very underappreciated pirate.
Oh, well, I mean, just the fact that a woman could be a pirate, which I personally think they had equal rights far further back. Look at pirates. Hey, can you rob, murder, pillage, and steal?
Well,
yeah. Well, we don't care if you're a woman or not. Get on the boat.
Well, I mean, she disguised herself as James Kidd for quite a long time.
True, but once she proved herself, everyone's like, "Wait, you're a woman?" Yeah. Oh man, she can outshoot Shooting Jack. That's a terrible pirate name, but I'm sure they didn't come up with much better.
Yeah. I mean, how do you think they named Blackbeard?
Gee, could it be because of his funny bushy eyebrows?
Could be.
All right.
But on that note too, few people really realize this because you don't really see it so much in movies. You're starting to see it more in movies. But yeah, there were actually a lot of Jamaican pirates and Haitian pirates.
Well, a lot of those
so there was a lot of racial equality too.
Yeah, well, heck, some of those were freed slaves. You know,
totally.
I know we had talked about pirates moving through South America and places, but remember, not all treasure is silver and gold. Some of it was flesh.
Yeah, sometimes they'd like bring up a ship and it's full of people and it's like, we weren't, you guys can go if you want.
Right. And some of them, a lot of them went home or went to the villages to work. Some of them stayed on to be pirate crews to try to punish the Spanish or British, because they wanted to fight back against the slave trade. That was very prevalent back then.
Yeah, who wouldn't? I mean,
right? Heck,
you were nearly property of some southern landowner, like.
And now instead you get to find the people that transported you and treated you as cargo, and you got to kick their ass. Hell yeah! This is. I can't really say that's what the civil rights should have been, because that's kind of what Malcolm X tried to do, was incite violence, whereas
it didn't.
Martin Luther King Jr. was more of a peaceful protest.
And it didn't work out super well for either of them.
No, both of them still got basically assassinated. So
no, basically about it, but they got assassinated. Like, let's not nicen things up here.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of racial and in some aspects even like
sexual equality too.
Yeah. So there were plenty of women in pirate culture as well, which is kind of nice.
You know, just to throw some music into all of this, what would be your favorite band that's pirate themed?
I would say, honestly, this one's kind of a weird one, but there was a band, it was on World of Warcraft radio, if you remember that any at all.
I did not know that was a thing.
It was a thing.
All right.
And it was Captain Dan and the Scurvy crew. They were a pirate gangster rap group, and they were going for corny and cheesy.
Oh, thank God, because they succeeded on the name alone.
Yeah. There's also there's quite a few metal bands out there too. There's Ailstorm. I guess you could qualify Turistas, but I don't know. That's kind of weird. But yeah, they're all great. I've yet to mention anyone that I don't like thoroughly.
You know, I am also a big fan of Irish music. Is there a lot of Irish pirate songs?
I feel like there should be, and I feel like I'm not doing myself justice by pointing anything out.
Well, I mean, because I know there's a lot of ship sailing songs, and there's a lot of sea shanties, but
definitely. But
I honestly don't remember a whole lot of them about pure pirates.
Well, and on that note, pirates it was actually Irish folk music that prompted, that was the inspiration for sea shanties. If I were to guess how sea shanties came about, there was probably some Irish guy on a pirate ship because, hey, you get paid mass amounts of money to screw over the English. What Irishman wouldn't want to do that? He's probably just doing, ship work and, singing to himself.
I'm sure there was copious amounts of alcohol involved, too.
Well, naturally. We're talking Irish pirates. Of course there's alcohol involved.
Oh, yeah.
But, he was probably just humming to himself, and someone's like, hey, that's a nice little tune you got there. And then, before you knew it, the whole deck was just singing this old Irish folk song.
And then someone probably went, you know what? We're pirates. Why don't we have our own songs?
Yeah, why don't we have pirate songs? And so, yeah, sea shanties became a thing, and I'm pretty sure it was through that the Navy ended up picking up on that, because it would get your crew to work in pace with each other.
You know, I feel like probably sea shanties started way back in old seafaring days, only because, remember, rowers went by the drummer, so anytime you had rowers, you always had timing. Right. And if you make music, what's the one thing you have to keep between everybody? Timing.
Oh yeah. The rhythm, the synchronization, these are important parts of starting a band. If you're going to start a band, don't do it with someone who's really, really talented. Do it with someone who you can sync up with really well. Okay?
Because if he's that talented, I'm sure he would have gone and made a solo career already.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, he will eventually find someone else who is as talented as he is.
True. So, all in all, you love the pirate genre.
I do. I really do. I think it was probably the origin of the outcast, outlaw sort of thing, which I've always been a big fan of. I like westerns. I like gangster movies. I like a whole bunch of things. So, and while of course these people are not very nice in real life, they certainly did make for some really good stories.
That they did. And if there's one thing that humans wanted more than anything, it was freedom. And pirates definitely represented freedom. They were the masters of their ship.
Yeah, from pirate culture straight into biker culture, I think one thing that will always work with people is just the idea of freedom, lawlessness, and that's always resonated with me, probably because of my time as an anarchist. I don't know if that's exactly it, or maybe I just think pirates are cool. Because pirates are cool.
Yeah, pirates are cool. Fist bump.
fist bump.
Yay. All right. Well, I think that'll. I think that's about all we got for the moment.
We kind of branched out to a lot of different things, but
I liked it.
Yeah, we had fun. We
All
always do.
Well, Alleyway Conversation listeners, I hope you had fun.
Yeah.
And join us next week when we are going to have the topic of treasure hunters, which we almost combined, but considering how much mileage we got out of just pirates, I'm glad we did. We would not have done it justice.
Well, in all fairness, there's a difference between finding lost treasure and just, like, taking over a ship and stealing their valuables, you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna separate them, and we're gonna go over a few movies we really like. Unfortunately, there's no treasure hunter metal out there that I know of. I might look into that.
You know what? Indiana Jones theme song. There you go.
Yeah, it is the most metal song ever.
Alright, well, I hope you have fun and join us again next week. And I would say that catchphrase, but I feel like Akira Toriyama might sue.
That was a Dragon Ball Z thing?
Yes, remember, join us next time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Alright, have a good one, everybody.
Yeah. See you.
Hey everybody, Andrew from Alleyway Conversations here. Just letting you know we do have a Patron page and we would love to have you join. Whether just to look for updates, release schedules, or if you'd like to support us, we would be happy with anything and everything you can do for us. I know me and Patrick would really appreciate it. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Hey everybody, Andrew from Alleyway Conversations here. Just letting you know we do have a Patron page and we would love to have you join. Whether just to look for updates, release schedules, or if you'd like to support us, we would be happy with anything and everything you can do for us. I know me and Patrick would really appreciate it. Thank you and have a wonderful day.